The Kepler station floated in the dark space like a wounded bird with broken wings. Commander Jake Sullivan stood in the control room watching the enemy ships come closer through the big window. His hands shook as he counted 12 alien warships, moving toward them like hungry wolves. The Vorthan fleet had been hunting humans across this part of space for 3 long months, and now they had found the last place where people could hide. Jake looked at the screens showing red warning lights. Everywhere. The station's weapons were old and weak compared to what was coming for them. He had been a simple mining engineer before the war started, but now he was the only officer left alive to command this place. Admiral Carl Mason had died fighting the aliens 2 weeks ago and left Jake with 10,000 scared people to protect. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her desk trying to send messages to anyone who might help them. Her face was white with fear as she spoke into her microphone. "This is Kepler Station calling for help. We have civilians here, including women and children. Please respond." But only static came back through the speakers. The aliens were blocking all their calls for help with some kind of machine that stopped radio waves from getting through. Amy turned to Jake with tears in her eyes. "Sir, the Vorthans are jamming everything. Nobody knows we are here. Nobody is coming to save us." Her voice broke as she said the words that everyone was thinking but nobody wanted to hear. They were alone in the dark with death coming for them. The station held people from all walks of life. There were families who had come here to start new lives on distant planets. There were scientists studying the stars and looking for new worlds to explore. There were miners who dug valuable metals from asteroids to send back to Earth. There were teachers and doctors and engineers and farmers. All of them were now trapped with nowhere to run. Dr. Lisa Bennett worked in her lab trying to fix a special radio that might be able to punch through the alien jamming. She had been working on this quantum communication device for 2 years, and now it might be their only hope. Her helper Tony Martinez adjusted wires and checked connections while explosions shook the walls around them. Every few minutes the lights would flicker as enemy weapons hit their shields. "Doctor, we need to hurry," Tony said as sparks flew from a broken panel. "The shields are failing and those boarding pods will be here soon." He pointed to the screen showing small enemy ships heading straight for their docking bays. Each pod carried 20 alien soldiers ready to kill everyone they found. Lisa wiped sweat from her face and kept working. "Just a few more minutes, Tony. If I can get this transmitter working, someone might hear us." She connected the last wire and prayed to whatever gods might be listening that her machine would work. Down in the security office, Sergeant Danny Lopez gathered every person who could hold a weapon. He had 30 real soldiers left, but hundreds of civilians wanted to fight. Mary Johnson had been a school teacher, but now she practiced with a pulse rifle. Alex Kim was only 17, but he knew every tunnel and air vent in the station better than anyone. Old man Frank Davis had fought in Earth's last war and still remembered how to use a gun. "Listen up, everyone," Danny said to the crowd of scared but determined faces. "The aliens think we are weak. They think we will just give up and die quietly. They are wrong. We are humans, and humans fight for their families. We fight for our friends. We fight because it is the right thing to do." The Vorthan ships moved closer like giant metal sharks. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy as they prepared to attack. The alien commander Warlord Krex sat on his command throne laughing at the pitiful human station. To him, humans were nothing more than bugs that had somehow learned to fly between the stars. They were weak and soft and would break easily under pressure. Jake made his final entry in the station log. His hands were steady now as he spoke into the recorder. "This is Commander Jake Sullivan of Kepler Station. We fought with everything we had against an enemy that wanted to destroy us. If anyone finds this message, tell Earth that we held the line. Tell them we did not run. Tell them we protected our people until the very end." The first enemy boarding. Pods slammed into the docking bay doors with loud crashes that echoed through the station. Alarms screamed warnings as alien soldiers began cutting through the metal barriers. The battle for Kepler Station was about to begin, and everyone knew they were going to die fighting. Amy sent one last message into the void. hoping against hope that someone somewhere might hear them. "This is our final transmission." They thought no help was coming. They were probably right. "But we will make them pay for every life they take." The defenders took their positions throughout the station. Some hid in the air vents waiting to ambush the enemy. Others built barriers in the hallways to slow them down. Everyone from small children to old grandparents had a job to do in the coming fight. The alien soldiers broke through the doors and began their attack. They expected quick victory against the helpless humans, but they were about to learn that cornered humans fight harder than any creature in the galaxy. The battle for survival had begun, and the humans would not go quietly into the dark. Far away in the cold darkness of space, the research ship Nightingale drifted slowly between the stars. Communications Officer Nicole Torres sat at her station listening to the usual background noise of space when something impossible happened. Her screen lit up with signals that should not exist. The readings showed a quantum burst that had traveled through 11 different dimensions to reach her ship. Nicole stared at the strange patterns on her screen and felt her heart start beating faster. This was not normal radio traffic or even the advanced signals that Earth's military used. This was something completely new that bypassed every form of jamming she had ever seen. Her hands shook as she began decoding the message that had somehow found its way across the galaxy. "Captain Brooks, please come to communications right away," Nicole called over the ship's intercom. Her voice was tight with excitement and fear as she worked to clean up the signal. The message was breaking apart, but she could see enough to know that people were in terrible danger somewhere far from home. Captain Ryan Brooks hurried to the communications station still wearing his sleep clothes. He had been resting in his quarters when Nicole's urgent call woke him up. Ryan was a good man who had spent 15 years exploring the unknown parts of space. His ship, the Nightingale, was built for science, not war, but he cared about every human life in the galaxy. "What do you have for me, Nicole?" Ryan asked as he looked at the strange readings on her screen. The patterns meant nothing to him, but he could see that his communications officer was very upset about something. Nicole had been with him for 5 years, and she never got excited about routine messages. Nicole played the decoded message through the speakers, and everyone on the bridge stopped what they were doing to listen. The voice was full of static, but they could hear the desperation and fear of the person speaking. "This is Kepler Station calling for help. We have civilians here, including women and children. The Vorthans are attacking us. We cannot hold much longer. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we need help now." The bridge went completely quiet as the terrible message ended. Chief Engineer Pete Davis looked up from his computer with shock on his face. "Captain, that transmission came from the Meridian sector. That is more than 200 light-years from here. How did we receive a signal from so far away?" Dr. Helen White, the ship's expert on alien life forms, pulled up files on her tablet computer. "The Vorthans are a warrior race that believes only the strong deserve to live. They have been expanding their empire for the last 50 years by destroying anyone who gets in their way. They do not take prisoners, and they do not show mercy to anyone." Ryan felt sick as he realized what they had just heard. Somewhere far away, thousands of innocent people were about to die, and there was nothing anyone could do to help them. The Nightingale was a science ship with only basic weapons for protecting against space pirates. They had never been in a real war and were not equipped to fight alien warships. Pete Davis ran calculations on his computer while the others talked about what to do. "Captain, if we push our quantum drive to maximum power, we could reach the Meridian sector in about 6 hours. But the drive was not designed for that kind of stress. We might burn it out or even damage the ship badly." Nicole was still working with her equipment, trying to learn more about the message. "I'm picking up more transmissions from the same area. It sounds like there is a big battle happening right now. The humans are fighting, but they are badly outnumbered and their weapons are not very good." Ryan walked to the big window that showed the stars outside and thought about what they should do. He had 30 crew members on his ship, and they were all scientists, not soldiers. If they went to help the people at Kepler Station, they would probably die too. But if they did nothing, thousands of innocent people would be killed by aliens who thought humans were worthless. Dr. White joined him at the window and spoke quietly so the others could not hear. Ryan, those people are already dead. The Vorthons have 12 heavy warships and Kepler Station only has old defense systems. Even if we arrived in time, what could we do against that kind of firepower? I know, Helen, but we cannot just ignore this, Ryan replied as he watched the distant stars. Those are our people out there. They are humans just like us with families and dreams and hopes for the future. How can we live with ourselves if we do not at least try to help them? The captain turned back to his crew and saw the same thoughts on every face. They were all scared, but they were also determined to do what was right. Pete Davis had already started preparing the quantum drive for maximum acceleration. Nicole was recording messages to send to Earth in case they did not survive. Even Dr. White was loading her computer with everything she knew about Vorthon military tactics. Mr. Davis, charge the quantum drive to full power, Ryan ordered in his command voice. Ms. Torres, send a message on all frequencies telling the people at Kepler Station that help is coming. Tell them to hold on a little longer because the cavalry is on the way. The Nightingale changed course and dove into the quantum tunnel that would carry them across hundreds of light years in just a few hours. The ship shook and groaned as forces beyond human understanding grabbed it and pulled it through folded space toward a battle they probably could not win. Ryan sat in his captain's chair and thought about the message they had sent to the doomed station. He hoped the people there would find some comfort in knowing that other humans cared enough to try saving them. Even if the rescue failed, at least they would know they had not been forgotten in their final moments. The crew worked frantically to prepare for whatever they would find when they reached the Meridian sector. They had no idea what they could do against 12 alien warships, but they would figure something out. Humans were good at finding solutions to impossible problems when the lives of their people were at stake. Warlord Krex stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the pathetic human resistance with growing anger. His 12 heavy cruisers surrounded the damaged station like predators circling wounded prey. The humans should have surrendered hours ago, but they kept fighting with their primitive weapons and desperate courage. It was annoying to waste so much time on such inferior creatures. The alien commander was 8 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. His people had conquered dozens of worlds and destroyed countless civilizations, but they had never met anyone as stubborn as these humans. Most species begged for mercy when faced with Vorthon military might, but the humans just kept shooting back with everything they had. Status report? Krex growled to his tactical officer who was monitoring the boarding operation. The young Vorthon warrior bowed his head nervously before speaking. His people feared their commander's temper almost as much as they feared losing a battle to inferior enemies. Sir, our troops have secured the outer docking bays, but the humans are fighting us in every corridor. They are using the air vents and maintenance tunnels to attack our soldiers from behind. We have lost 40 warriors to these cowardly tactics. The officer's voice showed his frustration with an enemy that refused to fight honorably in open battle. Inside, Kepler Station Sergeant Danny Lopez led his mixed group of soldiers and civilians through the maze of service tunnels that ran behind the walls. His team included Mary Johnson, the school teacher who had become deadly accurate with her pulse rifle, and Alex Kim, the teenager who knew every secret passage in the station better than the engineers who built it. Remember, stay quiet and move fast, Danny whispered to his fighters as they crawled through a narrow air vent above the main corridor. Below them, alien soldiers were setting up a heavy weapon that could blast through the reinforced doors protecting the civilian shelters. The humans had to stop them before hundreds of innocent people were killed. Mary Johnson aimed her rifle through the vent grating and waited for Danny's signal. She thought about her students who were hiding in the emergency shelters and felt her finger tighten on the trigger. These monsters wanted to kill children, and she would not let that happen. The gentle teacher had become a warrior fighting to protect the people she loved. Alex. Kim pointed to a spot where the ceiling was weak and they could drop down behind the aliens. He was scared but tried not to show it because the adults were depending on him. His knowledge of the station's hidden passages had already saved dozens of lives and helped the defenders strike at enemies who thought they were safe. At Danny's signal, the humans dropped through the ceiling and opened fire on the surprised aliens. The Vorthan soldiers were tough, but they had not expected an attack from above. 3 of them fell before they could react, while the others scrambled for cover behind their equipment. The humans disappeared back into the tunnels before reinforcements could arrive. In the command center, Commander Jake Sullivan coordinated the defense from what was left of his headquarters. The room was filled with smoke and sparks flew from damaged equipment, but he refused to abandon his post. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her communications station trying to maintain contact with the scattered resistance groups throughout the station. "Sir? I'm getting reports from all sectors," Amy said as she listened to the radio chatter from the fighting. "Our people are holding the aliens at the main corridors, but they are taking heavy casualties. Dr. Bennett says she needs more time to complete her work on the quantum transmitter." Jake nodded and studied the tactical display showing where the enemy forces were located. The aliens had superior numbers and better weapons, but they were having trouble dealing with human tactics. Instead of fighting like soldiers, the humans fought like angry hornets defending their nest. They struck from unexpected directions and disappeared before the enemy could respond. Dr. Lisa Bennett worked frantically in her laboratory while explosions shook the walls around her. Her quantum communication device was almost ready, but she needed just a few more minutes to calibrate the final systems. Tony Martinez helped her connect the power cables while keeping watch for enemy soldiers who might break through their barricaded door. "Doctor, the power levels are fluctuating," Tony reported as he watched the readings on his screen. "The station's main reactor is taking damage from the alien bombardment. If we lose power before you finish the transmitter, we will never get another chance to call for help." Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead and kept working with steady hands despite the chaos around her. "I know, Tony, but we have to try. There might be other human ships out there who could help us if they knew we were in trouble. Even if nobody comes, at least Earth will know what happened here." The fighting in the corridors was getting worse as more alien soldiers poured through the breached docking bays. The humans used every trick they could think of to slow down the invasion. They collapsed sections of tunnel to block enemy advances and set traps that killed unwary aliens who thought the passage was safe. Warlord Krex grew more frustrated as the hours passed without victory. His warriors were reporting strange resistance from an enemy that should have been crushed in the first hour of battle. The humans fought with a coordination that seemed impossible for such a primitive species. Soldiers worked with civilians, and even children helped carry supplies to the fighters. "Sir, perhaps we should destroy the station from orbit," suggested his second-in-command, who was tired of losing warriors to these persistent insects. "Our weapons could crack the hull and kill everyone inside within minutes. It would be faster than this boarding operation." Krex considered the suggestion but rejected it with an angry growl. "No, we need to capture some humans alive for questioning. Command wants to know how their technology works and where their home worlds are located. We will take this station room by room if necessary." The alien commander did not understand that he was fighting something his people had never encountered before. The humans were not just defending territory or resources like most species. They were protecting their families and their way of life. Every man, woman, and child on that station would die before they let the aliens win. Lieutenant Carter suddenly straightened at her communications post as new signals filled her speakers. "Commander, I am detecting something strange. There is a quantum signature approaching our position from deep space. The readings do not match any known ship design." Jake looked at the sensor display and saw what appeared to be a single ship moving toward them at impossible speed. Nothing could travel that fast through normal space without being torn apart by the forces involved. "Are you sure about these readings, Amy? Could this be some kind of alien trick?" Amy checked her instruments again and shook her head. "No, sir, this is definitely real. Whatever is coming toward us is using technology that I have never seen before. And, sir, there is something else. I am receiving a transmission on our emergency frequency." The message crackled through the static, but the words were clear enough to understand. Kepler Station, this is Captain Ryan Brooks of the research vessel Nightingale. We received your distress call and we are coming to help you. Hold your position and prepare for immediate evacuation. The command center fell silent as everyone stared at the speakers in disbelief. Help was actually coming from somewhere in the dark void of space. They were not going to die alone and forgotten after all. The USS Vengeance ripped through the fabric of space and time like a nightmare emerging from the deepest darkness. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of humanity's first true warship, watching the enemy fleet through her tactical display. Her ship was nothing like the exploration vessels and colony transports that the Vorthons had been hunting across the galaxy. This was a weapon built for one purpose only, and that purpose was war. Linda had cold blue eyes that had seen too much death and destruction in the past year. She wore her uniform with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent months preparing for this exact moment. Earth's military had been studying captured Vorthon technology and building ships that could fight back against the alien threat. The Vengeance was the first of a new generation of human warships designed to bring fear to their enemies. "Captain, we are approaching the target area," reported Commander Joe Franklin from his position at the tactical station. Joe was a veteran of the Outer Colony Wars who had lost his family when the Vorthons attacked his homeworld. He lived now for only one thing, and that was revenge against the aliens who had taken everything he cared about. The bridge of the Vengeance was dark and filled with screens showing target information and weapon status. Every member of the crew had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not survive. They were the best of the best, chosen from thousands of applicants who wanted to strike back at the aliens. Each person had lost someone to Vorthon attacks, and they all burned with the desire to make their enemies pay. "Sensor readings, Captain," called Lieutenant Susan Parker from her station near the front of the bridge. "I count 12 Vorthon heavy cruisers in standard siege formation around what appears to be a damaged human station. The enemy ships are focused on their target and do not seem to have detected our approach." Linda smiled with no warmth in her expression as she studied the tactical situation. The Vorthons were so confident in their superiority that they had not even bothered to post guards against attack from behind. They thought humans were weak and helpless creatures who could never threaten their mighty fleet. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Weapon status, Mr. Franklin," Linda ordered in a voice that carried the authority of someone who had fought her way up through the ranks. The Vengeance carried humanity's answer to alien technology in the form of weapons that turned the laws of physics into instruments of destruction. Every system on the ship had been tested and improved until it was as perfect as human engineering could make it. Chief Gunner Sam Mitchell activated the ship's primary weapon systems from his position deep in the vessel's armored core. The railguns could accelerate projectiles to 20% of light speed using magnetic fields that contained more energy than small stars. The plasma cannons channeled the fury of controlled fusion reactions that burned hotter than anything found in nature. "All weapons ready, Captain," Sam reported through the intercom system. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the excitement underneath. He had been waiting for this moment ever since the aliens had killed his brother during the attack on Titan Station. Today he would finally get the chance to show them what human weapons could do. The most terrifying weapon aboard the Vengeance was the experimental singularity torpedo that existed at the very edge of human scientific understanding. The weapon created a tiny black hole that lasted for only a few seconds but could destroy anything within 1,000 kilometers. Only 3 of the torpedoes had ever been built, and all of them were loaded in the ship's forward tubes. "Passive. Sensors only until we are ready to attack," Linda commanded as her ship moved closer to the unsuspecting enemy fleet. "I want complete surprise when we open fire. These aliens think they are hunting helpless prey, but today they become the hunted." The Vorthon ships continued their bombardment of Kepler Station, while their boarding parties fought the human defenders inside the damaged structure. Warlord Krex sat on his command throne watching the battle with growing impatience. The humans were taking far too long to die, and his warriors were reporting continued resistance throughout the station. Sir, our sensors are detecting an approaching vessel, reported his tactical officer who was monitoring the area around the fleet. The readings indicate a single human ship moving toward us at high speed. Should we dispatch fighters to destroy it before it can interfere with our operation? Krex laughed at the suggestion and waved his clawed hand dismissively. One ship against 12. Let it come closer so we can destroy it easily and show these stubborn humans what happens to those who dare challenge Vorth and might. Their rescue attempt will become another lesson in the futility of resistance. The alien commander had no idea that he was looking at death approaching through the cold darkness of space. The humans had spent months analyzing Vorthan technology and tactics while building ships specifically designed to exploit their enemies' weaknesses. The Vengeance was faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than anything the aliens had ever seen. Range to target 2,000 kilometers in closing. Joe Franklin reported as the ship moved into attack position. Enemy vessels are maintaining formation around the station. They still have not detected us through our stealth systems. Linda felt the familiar calm that always came before battle as she prepared to give the order that would change everything. Weapons free, Mr. Franklin. Take us out of stealth and show these aliens what human engineering can accomplish when we put our minds to it. The Vengeance dropped its cloaking field and appeared on every Vorthan sensor screen like a ghost materializing from the void. For a moment, the alien crews stared in confusion at the readings that showed a human ship unlike anything in their intelligence files. It was larger and more heavily armed than any vessel they had encountered before. All railguns fire, Linda commanded in a voice that carried across the bridge like thunder. The ship shuddered as magnetic accelerators released their deadly cargo at the unsuspecting enemy fleet. Projectiles moving at incredible speed crossed the distance between the ships in less than 2 seconds. The first railgun salvo punched through 2 Vorthan cruisers like they were made of paper instead of armor plating. The kinetic energy was so great that both ships simply disintegrated in flashes of vaporized metal and escaping atmosphere. The remaining aliens finally realized they were under attack, but it was already too late. Plasma cannons target the flagship, Joe Franklin called out as he designated priority targets for the gunners. Show their commander what happens when you threaten human civilians. Warlord Krex screamed orders as his flagship shields failed. Under concentrated plasma bombardment that burned through defensive systems like they did not exist. Impossible, human technology is primitive. How can they have weapons like this? His words turned to static as the bridge around him began to melt under the incredible heat. Inside Kepler Station, the defenders watched through the windows as their saviors methodically destroyed the enemy fleet. This was not a rescue operation, it was an execution carried out with cold precision and overwhelming firepower. The humans had come not just to save lives, but to send a message to every alien empire in the galaxy. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes from the first shot to the final explosion. When the weapons fell silent and the last pieces of debris stopped glowing, there was nothing left of the mighty Vorthan fleet except twisted metal drifting in the cold darkness of space. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of the Vengeance watching the wreckage float past her ship like the remains of a bad dream. Damage report, Linda called to her crew as they began the process of checking their systems after the intense fight. The railguns had performed perfectly and the plasma cannons had exceeded all expectations. Even the experimental singularity torpedo had worked exactly as designed, creating a brief black hole that consumed 3 enemy ships in seconds. No damage to report, Captain, replied Chief Engineer Bill Carter from his station in the engine room. All weapons functioned within normal parameters and we still have full power to all systems. The enemy never got close enough to return fire effectively. Linda nodded with satisfaction as she studied the tactical display showing the complete destruction of the alien fleet. Earth scientists and engineers had done their job, well, in creating weapons that could match anything the galaxy had to offer. The age of human vulnerability was ending and the age of human strength was just beginning. Launch rescue shuttles to Kepler Station, Linda ordered as she turned her attention to the damaged civilian outpost. Get our medical teams over there immediately. Those people have been through hell and they need help right now. Commander Jake Sullivan met the rescue teams at the main docking bay of Kepler, stationed with his uniform torn and bloodied but his spirit unbroken. He had led the defense of the station for hours against impossible odds and kept 10,000 people alive until help arrived. The exhaustion on his face was mixed with relief that the nightmare was finally over. "Captain Hayes, I presume," Jake said as he shook hands with the leader of the rescue operation. "We held them off as long as we could, but we lost a lot of good people in the fighting. The civilians fought alongside the soldiers, and many of them gave their lives to protect others." Linda looked around at the damage inside the station and felt a deep respect for the people who had refused to surrender even when death seemed certain. "Commander Sullivan, your people showed the galaxy what human courage looks like. The aliens thought they were attacking weak prey, but instead they found lions defending their cubs." Dr. Lisa Bennett's quantum transmitter had finally broken through the alien jamming and was sending the station's complete database to Earth in a concentrated burst transmission. The technical information about Vorthan ships, weapons, and tactics would ensure that humanity never again faced such overwhelming odds without preparation. "We learned a lot about their technology during the battle," Lisa explained to the rescue teams as they examined her equipment. "Their shields are strong against energy weapons but weak against kinetic projectiles. Their hulls are designed to resist plasma, but cannot handle the impact of high-velocity solid objects." Lieutenant Amy Carter coordinated the evacuation of wounded civilians, while Chief Medical Officer Sandra Walsh set up treatment areas throughout the station. The people who had fought beside trained soldiers received the same medical attention and respect as career military personnel. Heroes came in all forms during humanity's darkest hour. Tony Martinez helped load the most seriously injured onto medical shuttles that would take them to the advanced facilities aboard the Vengeance. He had been Dr. Bennett's assistant throughout the siege and had kept working even when explosions shook the walls around them. His calm dedication had helped save many lives during the chaotic battle. Sergeant Danny Lopez gathered the civilian volunteers who had fought so bravely in the tunnels and corridors of the station. Mary Johnson, the schoolteacher, had become a deadly sniper who saved dozens of lives with her accurate shooting. Alex Kim, the teenager, had used his knowledge of the station's layout to guide strike teams against enemy positions. "You all fought like veterans," Danny told the group of ordinary people who had become warriors when their families were threatened. "The aliens thought civilians would be easy targets, but you showed them that every human is a soldier when pushed too far." As the last survivors boarded the rescue shuttles, Captain Hayes stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance with Commander Sullivan watching the debris field that had once been a Vorthan fleet. "The aliens thought we were nothing more than primitive creatures who had stumbled into space travel," she said quietly. "They learned the hard way that humanity does not abandon its own." The news of the Kepler station defense and rescue spread throughout human space within days thanks to the quantum communication network. Other alien empires that had been considering attacks on human colonies suddenly found themselves reconsidering their plans. The species that had seemed weak and divided had revealed teeth sharper than anyone imagined. Dr. Helen White's analysis of the battle would later show that the Vorthans had made a critical error in their understanding of human psychology. Their own culture was based on rigid military castes where only trained warriors were expected to fight. They could not comprehend a species where teachers, farmers, and children would take up arms to defend their communities. The research vessel Nightingale arrived at Kepler Station 3 hours after the battle ended, and Captain Ryan Brooks was amazed to find the rescue already complete. His small science ship had raced across the galaxy to help, but the real cavalry had arrived first in the form of humanity's new military might. "We came as fast as we could," Ryan told Linda as the two captains met aboard the Vengeance. "When we received that quantum transmission, we knew we had to try something even though we had no weapons to speak of." Linda smiled and put her hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Your ship may not have weapons, Captain, but you have something more important. You have the courage to risk everything for people you have never met. That is what makes us human, and that is what will make us strong." The USS Vengeance continued its patrol of the frontier regions, no longer a secret weapon but a visible reminder of human resolve. In the weeks that followed, other warships emerged from Earth's hidden shipyards, each one a testament to the industrial might and innovative spirit that had carried humanity from caves to stars. The galaxy had learned an important lesson written in plasma fire and twisted metal debris. They had thought no help was coming for the humans trapped at Kepler Station, but they had underestimated the lengths to which people would go to protect their own kind. The age of easy conquest was over, and humanity had claimed its place among the stars with the thunder of railguns and the fury of artificial suns. Word of the battle reached alien governments throughout the galaxy, and many of them began reconsidering their expansion plans. The humans were no longer the helpless prey they had seemed to be. They had revealed advanced technology, superior tactics, and most importantly, an unbreakable will to fight for their survival. The universe had become a much more dangerous place for those who threatened human lives.